Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Michaela Smith, and we have a full forecast to get to today. Lots of winter weather to talk about. Winter storm is at it yet again for areas in the Midwest. We're talking about some polar air that's clipping the Midwest, and that's bringing just more snow to that area that already had quite a bit of snow last week. And on top of that, we have another atmospheric river that's bringing heavy rain, snow, strong winds, and an avalanche warning to parts of the northern Rockies. I'll show you where that is in just a second. Again, talking about avalanches. And then December temperatures are going to stay divided. Areas to the west continue to look like they're going to be just a little bit warmer. Areas along the east coast, things are a little bit cooler. First comment, Chipper said, hashtag HailTrace team. Hey, thanks for watching, Chipper. We're so happy that you are here today. Here's a look at these 24-hour storm reports. And before I jump into that, like Chipper just said, always comment if you're watching, where you're watching from. If you have any questions at any point throughout this forecast, again, we're talking about a lot of winter weather today. Post those in the comments. My producer John is watching very closely, and he will make sure to get those comments up on the screen. 24-hour storm reports over the last day or so really didn't have anything happening besides winter weather. You can see some snow across the East Coast, parts of North Carolina and Virginia. And this was the beginning of the atmospheric river that started off towards the west. So Oregon, Washington started seeing some of that rain and snow yesterday. Here's more snow. Now we're kind of catching up to tonight. Areas like Minneapolis or last night, and then that started to move in across parts of Wisconsin. And really just the Great Lakes region have continued to see round after round of snowfall. That is no exception, no really change to that as you get towards today. There's that next round of snow moving into parts of Minnesota. So here are these current conditions. Here are these low pressure systems areas to the north where some of that snow is, or just very cold rain in North and South Dakota. Also more snowfall up in the mountains in the higher Rockies, and the atmospheric river sitting off towards the west coast. Portland, you're seeing a ton of rainfall too. And it's really going to continue to be very wet along the west coast over the next several days. Middle of the U.S., not really dealing with any rainfall, although we have had some freezing fog over the weekend in areas like Oklahoma and Texas, parts of Kansas as well, so that was interesting to see. But as you take a look more towards the northeast, a little bit of snow showers moving across parts of the Great Lakes right now, so Toronto, getting closer to areas like Pennsylvania. Then you go to the south, few showers off to the southern parts of Florida, so Miami, you might see a little bit of rainfall for today. A lot of us in the central U.S. nice and dry. And then like we've been talking about, the winter weather is going to be in the upper Midwest, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. You're still seeing some of the snow that's starting to move back in, and that's really going to continue through your Tuesday evening and then heading into your Wednesday and along the West Coast, Seattle, Portland, all the way back into parts of Idaho, western Montana. You were also seeing some heavy rainfall and snow. So you can see where these temperatures are definitely very chilly. Up to the north, Minneapolis, you're sitting at 27. Fort Wayne, Indiana, you're at 34, 33 in Charleston, 55 in Oklahoma City, 59 in Dallas, and then in the 40s in Portland. So that's not snow that you're seeing, just very cold rain. Now we have a lot of alerts to get to across the U.S. We're going to start off a little bit closer to the Great Lakes. You can see where we have this pink. That's another winter storm warning that goes into effect through tomorrow. You also have this light blue winter storm watch, so that extends all the way past Minnesota into parts of Iowa as well. And you can see the purple, that's going to be a winter weather advisory. Flight Girl Tracker said, what about Ohio? Ohio right now, not seeing any of these alerts. Not under any winter weather advisories, winter storm watches, winter storm warnings, at least for the rest of your Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, as this storm system moves in, we call it a clipper. It comes from the north and very quickly moves across the U.S. because it's fast moving and it's bringing that snow. We could see areas, maybe northern Ohio, seeing some of the snowfall, but if you're far to the south, close to areas like Cincinnati, again, you're far southern Ohio, I really don't think you're going to get much snow from at least this storm system. This is going to be our key focus right now. So John, if you could pull up some traffic cameras. We pulled up a few around Minneapolis, just showing you the Twin Cities. Not a ton of snow has moved in yet for this system. It's going to pick up as you go more towards the afternoon and then especially into tomorrow morning. So you can see some of the traffic right now getting along still pretty well. The snow that you're seeing already on the ground is just the fact that they have not been above freezing and close to, I think, 7-8 days now. It has been a long stretch of being below freezing. So the snow has had nowhere to go, and now they're expecting more again this afternoon into tomorrow. So the Tuesday evening commute, Wednesday morning commute could get a little bit messy for the Twin Cities. Here's another view right here. John, I think we have one or two more views if you just want to show. Again, So far, roads are looking okay. People are going to probably start slowing down a little bit more, but that snow will start to pick up more this afternoon. So here's just a look again across parts of the Twin Cities. Now, that's where they don't have the winter storm warning. They're into that winter weather advisory. But if some of those heavier snow bands can drop down a little bit closer to Minneapolis or St. Paul, they could likely also be included in this winter storm warning. Thank you, John, for showing us some of these traffic cameras. Again, so far, so good. Roads look like they're not, impassable. People are getting along pretty smoothly. So I think so far things are looking good. We'll come back to a wide view and look at our graphics here. So again, this is where all the winter weather is. But I also want to highlight, as you go just slightly more towards the west, it is going to be very windy today. Areas here in this tan color, that's going to be a high wind warning. It goes until tomorrow. We're talking about wind gusts 70 to 80 miles per hour possible this afternoon, maybe even some stronger gusts. So very windy today across Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming as well, parts of Nebraska. And then you can see we have a high wind watch, parts of Montana too. And then one thing I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this kind of forecast, we talked about an avalanche warning. Northern Rockies, so western Montana, parts of Idaho, up in the mountains. So those higher elevations, they have seen avalanches. They are expecting more today, and that's because so much heavy snowfall is falling. With those high winds, it's causing mudslides and rock slides and those avalanches in those higher elevations. So they're warning people, please be careful. Just try to kind of avoid being on the mountain if you can. And then far off to the west coast, again, Seattle, Portland, you're seeing those flood watches. And around Seattle, a lot of flood warnings ongoing because that atmospheric river arrived yesterday and is expected to stick around at least through about Thursday. So a lot of rainfall still to come over the next several days. Here's a look at those 24-hour snow totals. You can see really where this is just continued to be is highlighted in the upper Midwest and closer to the Great Lakes. But I do want to jump to the south here in just a few minutes. But again, you can see Chicago, you maybe had a dusting within the last 24 hours. A lot of the snowfall has been closer to Duluth. You saw quite a bit of snowfall. North Dakota, you saw some snowfall as well, 4-6 inches maybe possible. Then you go more towards the mountains. Again, this is where we're talking about those avalanche warnings. You've seen 12, 13 inches of snowfall. Way out here in parts of Washington, you see there's areas they're going to be highlighted with more of that white color. That's like 20 plus inches of snow in the last 24 hours. So that's really where that atmospheric river is just kicking in, those higher elevations. It is just absolutely dumping snow in parts of the mountains. But you can also see in parts of Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia as well. They had some snowfall over the last 24 hours. Charleston, this is showing radar indicated maybe 4 to 6 inches. South of Richmond too, you saw quite a bit of snowfall. If anyone's watching from there, let us know how much snow you actually had at your house. I'd be very curious to see, or you can always put those pictures in the comments. So again, here's this wide view of the last 24 hours. Now, where will snow still be on the ground over the next several days? By about 5 o'clock, you can still see Midwest and Great Lakes. You're still expecting to see quite a bit of that snowfall. In areas in West Virginia, North Carolina, you could still see some of that snow going into tonight and maybe even tomorrow. Denver and the Rockies, you're going to continue to see that snowfall. Then you head into Wednesday morning, still expected to be there. Wednesday afternoon, maybe a slight shift. Some of that snow starts to melt more towards the north. But as you get to about 7 o'clock tomorrow, things are still expected to be pretty similar. Now, I do want to show you the significant hail forecast really quickly, just to show you that there is nothing. We can barely see a few white specks here across portions of Denver and Wyoming. That's, I think, picking up the teeny tiniest bit of hail. At that point, I think it would honestly be more like graupel. I'm not expecting any severe weather. If there are any thunderstorms over the next several days, they are expected to not be severe. So it is that time of year. The weather gets more quiet. And it's also a great time then if you have anything that you need to do outside and you get these kind of in-between periods of things being super cold or areas where it's not super snowy, if you need to go rework any roofs or things like that, now is the perfect time to do that. Might not have the best chance though if your area is to the north. Here is not the significant hail anymore, but just kind of playing this forward where some of that snow is going to continue to be. This is 5 o'clock today, so Minneapolis, again, at that point, you're seeing some of that snowfall. Continuing to move across into parts of Wisconsin late tonight and tomorrow morning. A lot of this looks like areas like Chicago. You might see just more of a cold rain as opposed to snowfall, but we'll keep a close eye on this as you head into your Wednesday morning. And then this continues to kind of push this low pressure system out. They're very fast moving systems. So this is already by tomorrow morning. Now you're seeing areas like Toronto, New York, maybe Washington, D.C., seeing some of that rain, cold snow for tomorrow. By Thursday, that system's out, and then we'll be talking about another system that will be moving in. So for today, Tuesday, December 9th, no significant hail is expected. In your severe storm outlook, Tuesday, not expecting anything. Wednesday, also not expecting anything. If any storms were to form, again, low risk for storms in general, and those would be very isolated storms that you're talking about. Really just the main focus now is kind of a calm break, if you will, cooler temperatures for a lot of people, and then that snow more towards the north. Even still by Friday, you're not really talking about any thunderstorms in the forecast. But there's still lots of rain to come. Here's this 5-day rain chances breakdown, especially as you go towards the west coast. Between Vancouver and Portland, you're talking about over 5 inches of rain possible in the next 5 days. And then a lot of this moisture that you see again for the Midwest back off towards even some of the East Coast is going to fall in the form of either cold rain or it's going to fall as snow. So the big thing with this, just rainfall or the snow that we're talking about, is coming from all the moisture that we're seeing from the atmospheric river. Here's today, this day 1 level outlook. You're at a level 2 risk. So hazards, scattered flash flooding. When I showed you that alert graphic earlier, you saw all those flood warnings. So they're already dealing with flooding ongoing in areas like Seattle down to Portland. And then you can also see in parts of Idaho too, that's being highlighted. Just that level 1 risk, it's not in that yellow. That yellow again does extend along Highway 5 or Interstate 5 between Seattle and Portland. Then you go to day 2, so this is tomorrow's outlook. Very similar to where you're seeing for today's, but now we've added western parts of Montana and northern parts of Idaho between about Spokane and going closer to Great Falls, not all the way to Great Falls, but there's also a second area now that we're talking about again, the potential for scattered flash flooding with more heavy rainfall and moisture moving in. And then as you get towards Thursday, you take away the level 2 risk between Seattle and Portland, and a lot of that moisture is still moving more inland at that point, and you still have that level 2 risk in parts of Montana and Idaho. So atmospheric river is going to continue now through about Thursday. Started yesterday, that's why we already have those flood warnings into place, and it's just going to continue to bring a lot of moisture, and for some that's going to continue to fall in the form of snow. Before we break down any more of this snow over the next several days, again, if you guys have any questions at any point in time, please just leave them in the comments. I would be happy to talk more about some of this winter weather or just any questions in general that you may have. Here's a look at Tuesday, so this is right around 1:30 this afternoon. You're seeing this snowfall moving in out of the Dakotas into parts of Minnesota. So Minneapolis, that's why we talked about tonight, your Tuesday into Wednesday. That's when that commute was going to be pretty messy. We showed you those roads right now, not looking too rough really yet. That might start to change a little bit later. And then more in parts of, again, Iowa, you're seeing some cold rain and maybe a little bit of freezing rain trying to mix in some sleet. Overall, a lot of that's going to remain snow. Chicago, I think, again, at this point, a lot of what you're going to see is also going to just be rainfall. But parts of Michigan, you're also going to see more snowfall. Heading into Wednesday, this is right around 4 or 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, and you're seeing that snowfall moving off towards the east. Playing this forward again, this is a different model. This is our graph. That last one was the HER. You can still see this band of heavy snowfall tonight. This low pressure system forms right over the Great Lakes and then pushes this moisture out to the east coast by about 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow. By tomorrow night, though, a lot of the snow is moving out from this round, and then your next round, this is Wednesday evening, you push this into Thursday. Now we're talking about another system bringing snow to areas like Minneapolis as you head towards Thursday and Friday. So even though they've seen a little bit of snow on the ground, expecting to see more, then they'll get even more after that, and temperatures are still not expected to get back above freezing, which is why the snowfall just continues to add on to totals. I mean, again, you see this next round, Wednesday night into Thursday, playing this one more time for you. Here's this next, it's not a huge band of snow, but it still is going to bring it all across Minnesota, down into Iowa, maybe even parts of Illinois too at this point. So we'll watch that next round of snow a little bit later on this week to see if it can get a little bit further to the south. Snow accumulation over the next several days. You can see there's that first round. Then we have a little bit more possible as you head towards the weekend. Then a little bit more as you get to Saturday. And then a little bit more by Sunday. But really, it just continues to take over the northern half of the U.S. Not talking about really a ton of us down to the south seeing much of this snowfall. And a lot of this is also because of the temperatures that we're seeing. There's kind of a big great divide right now. West Coast, you're a little bit warmer, so that's why you're seeing rainfall. East Coast and areas to the north, this has all been below average and is continuing to be below average, which is why anytime any kind of moisture moves in, the trends continue to favor now, seeing a little bit more snowfall. So this plays all the way through about next Tuesday. You can see again, we'll watch more snow just with kind of rounds of it for areas to the north. So here's that divide that we were talking about, warm versus cold. You have right along the center, this is today, western half of the U.S. is warm, eastern half is cold, especially the East Coast. You're looking at about 10 to 20 degrees below normal. Then you get to Wednesday, start to see that next little round of cold pocket of air move in. That drops it down by Thursday. You're still warmer to the west, continuing that trend of cooler to the east. By Friday, this is when a little bit more Arctic, really cold air starts to move in, and it will drop some temperatures further to the south, areas like the plains, by this weekend. So this is Friday. Things are still plenty warm. But then you get to Saturday and you start to see more of that cold air moving into St. Louis, maybe getting closer to Oklahoma, Arkansas at that point. You get to Sunday, now it has made it here. Oklahoma City, Dallas, Arkansas, northern parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. Here's that next Arctic kind of blast that moves in. But again, if you're on the West Coast, you are still above average at this point. But everywhere from the middle of the U.S. to the East Coast is going to be a little bit below average. And then that will continue into next week. We continue to see these trend of just the U.S. being split into two. So here are these future temperatures by this evening in the 50s here in the plains, 30s up to the north, 40s on the West Coast. Tomorrow morning, you're starting off in the 20s or even the teens, 11 in Bismarck tomorrow morning. Get to the afternoon, it's only 20 degrees in Minneapolis, 13 in Bismarck, 29 in Detroit, but you're in the 50s, 60s, even in the 70s far southern Texas. Thursday morning at 6 a.m., you're in the 20s. Check out Minneapolis, 0 degrees Thursday morning. That's getting closer to that next really cold air that we talked about moving in. So that's very frigid. Bismarck, you're sitting at 19. Then you get to Thursday afternoon, you're only at 11 in Chicago. Minneapolis, Detroit, 25. Very cold air moving into place. And then as you head towards Friday, that's where we started to see that change again. And as you head towards the weekend, another round of cold air will move more towards the south. Extended temperature outlook, you can see here's that pattern we've mentioned. Colder air off towards the East Coast and warmer air kind of central U.S. back towards the west. This is valid December 14th through the 18th. John, we popped that comment on again. I wasn't able to read it that fast. Flight Girl Tracker said, hope you have a Merry Christmas. You as well. Thanks for watching again. We really appreciate that. And maybe we'll see some of these trends getting a little bit closer to Christmas, towards a white Christmas for a lot of people. I know that gets people really excited and talking about who's going to have the white Christmas this year. It's a little bit too far out yet to pinpoint that exactly. But within the next week or so, we'll start to get a little bit more data in that we can start to kind of call and see who may have that chance, or a better chance at least, of having a white Christmas for this year. So here's this extended temperature outlook. Again, colder for the north and the east, warmer for the west, and also a lot of the west where things are warmer is going to start to dry out. But then to the north, where we're seeing that atmospheric river right now, you're going to continue to trend wetter than average. And then that also extends for areas by the Great Lakes. So you have colder air, wetter than average. We're talking about more snow going to be possible over the next several days. Hey, thanks again, guys, for watching today. We truly appreciate it. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier on in this forecast, it is a perfect time to go and rework some of those areas that maybe there were hailstorms back in May, June, July. I think even early this fall, we had some pretty busy months. So while there's a little bit of a break maybe in the snow, not any thunderstorms right now, it's a great chance to kind of go back and rework those areas. So if you want to do that, you can give us a call here at HailTrace. You can get 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com or go to hailtrace.com. And as always, we are continuously posting weather updates across the country talking about the avalanches and the snowstorms and where those high wind warnings are going to be. So follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok because we are always active on those platforms. Thanks again for joining us for today, you guys. We will see you back tomorrow at the same time, same place.